Well, welcome back to another episode of Teslas in Canada, going over the Florida trip and the costs and the journey and if it was worth it. Now, if you saw the last video, you saw I had some issues there of being locked out of the superchargers. So I'm in Georgia right now. There's a huge issue with the Tesla chargers and they're basically not working for Canadians. And yeah, so go back, watch that one first if you haven't, or finish this, then go back, see what the issue was and how that issue got resolved. Now we're going to answer the question, is it actually worth it to take the time and the money to go with your Tesla? We're going to answer that question in today's video. So to catch everyone up to speed, if you haven't seen the first video in the series yet, so when we drove to Florida, we had the idea to basically take 3 days to do it, leaving around 5:30, 6 o'clock at night on a Thursday, and then drive all day on Good Friday and then Saturday to get down there without being rushed or pressured or anything. Plus, it's the first long trip with a Tesla, especially the Model Y rear-wheel drive, which has the lowest range out of all the new available Teslas right now. So we gave ourselves a little bit of extra time to see how it went. And yeah, we did that in 3 days, but I felt like we could have done it in 2 days. So on the way back, that's exactly what we did. We tried to squeeze in everything into 2 days. First day we ran into some major hiccups, which was, and again, I want to thank Magback for sponsoring today's video, as well as the last video for making this trip possible. The Magback phone case, rim case, as well as the Magback charger for the Tesla have been fantastic. Yeah, I'm really loving the charger in the Tesla. It was super useful on this entire road trip as well as prior. I've had it for almost 6 months now, and I can't imagine life without it, and I'm very happy to have it. And of course, the rim case is designed to protect your rims. It fits over the rim so seamlessly, and it just looks very OEM. It's going to protect your rim from any curb rash, like the curb rash here on my friend's Tesla. He should have put these rim covers on earlier, but he didn't know about it. So anyways, his loss, your gain if you don't already have a curb rash on your rims. And the phone case as well is a game changer. It protects my phone. I have it on 2 different phones right now, and I love it. You can throw it around, drop it, whatever. Don't have to worry about it. Protect your phone. Now the phones are over $1,000 now. You definitely want to protect your investment. So check out Magback, link in description below for some money off. And thank you again for sponsoring today's video. First day we ran into some major hiccups, which was a lot of traffic. And the traffic was brutal. So that delayed us about 2.5 to 3 hours. So we were on the road about 13 hours that day, between charging stops, having lunch, breakfast, dinner, all of that, about 13 hours on the road, including charging times. Yeah, a lot of that was just sitting in slow traffic. So the charging costs that I'm going to include are a charging stop in Sarasota, Florida, which was actually done on April 1st while we were in Florida. But because I wanted to include that as being some of the charging costs on the trip, so I want to include every single cost here. I'll break it down at the very end and give you a total for the entire 9 days that we were gone. But we charged in Sarasota, Florida, and it cost $12.54 US, which is $17.05 Canadian. Now from here on out, I'll just say it in Canadian, and you can see the US dollars here on the screen anyways. But our first charging stop on the journey home was in Brandon, Florida, and it was $11.80. And then from there, we went to beautiful Ocala, Florida, which Ocala has tons of horse farms, tons of horse stuff. So if you're into horses, awesome area to check out. But $15.72 charging there. We then headed to Kingsland, Georgia, $12.82 to charge over there. Then Yamasi, South Carolina, $15.60 there. And we ended that first day in Columbia, South Carolina. And I've discovered it is right behind the Hilton Hotel. So this is where I'm going to be staying tonight. Now, no free charging, but at least the superchargers here I'm charging it beforehand and then going to bed so that I wake up and I'm good to go for the trip the next day instead of having to start charging again. So I'm going to charge this up to about 85, maybe even 90%, and then I'll park it next to Tez Diva. Well, that's what the license plate says. Pretty sweet looking car with the pink rims and pink badging, pink door handles on it. Awesome ride. And anyways, I'm going to park next to that Tesla Model Y, and we're going to head out tomorrow in the morning and head back to our house in Toronto area. Where we topped up and charged $17.11. And the charger there in Columbia was right behind a Hilton hotel. So we stayed there, checked in there. It was around about 8:30 p.m. at night. We had started the morning off at 6:45 in the morning. A decent day there. We drove that, stayed in the hotel, and then I couldn't fall asleep because I had too many energy drinks during the day. And I felt like I should have just kept driving and gotten further ahead in the journey. But regardless of that, we stopped there. And then we left the next day around the same time, 6:45 in the morning. And we drove all the way until about 11:45 p.m. when we got home. First charging stop after leaving Columbia, South Carolina was Charlotte, North Carolina. And we spent $12.27 charging there. And we headed off to Wyatteville, Virginia for a charging stop there at $10.61. From there, we headed over to Mount Hope in West Virginia for $18.60. And then another stop here in Weston, West Virginia. So two stops there in West Virginia, $11.75. And then we proceeded out of West Virginia. And oh yeah, a third stop in West Virginia in Morgantown, $9.30. From there, we headed to Grove City, Pennsylvania, and charged for $13.46. And then our final stop and final charge, which is actually our first supercharge coming into the States, and our last supercharge leaving the States, was in Fredonia, New York. Now, I will say that these chargers are a bit slower. The kilowatts per hour charging there seem to be slower than all the other chargers. So be wary of that. It's going to take you a bit longer charging there, but $25.46, which was the most expensive charge on the leg back. But those were all the charging stops we did, and we drove for 17 hours on the road between the charging stops, which added about 2.5 hours of charging on the 17-hour day. And then, of course, we had the 13-hour day prior, so that's 30 hours traveling between all the traffic, the charging stops, eating, and all of that. That's how long it took in 2 days, 30 hours on the road, traveling, including the charging stops, which I guess some people may not say that's part of the traveling, but regardless, we're including that here into the study. And those stops, the 12 stops on the journey, plus the one that happened in Sarasota prior to us leaving to come back, was $191.55. Now, if you haven't seen the previous video, the total coming to the States because of some of the issues having to charge at different chargers, it cost us $201.45, which it only should have cost us about $170 if we use Tesla superchargers. But because of the major issue there with charging, being locked out of charging, we could not do that. So that brings us to a total charging cost for the entire trip. And actually, we'll throw in the charging at home before we left, which is under $2, but we'll call that $2 Canadian to charge at home. Way cheaper charging at home, by the way. But total charging costs, $395 is what it cost, including the $2 at home, for around 4,700 kilometers of travel. And yeah, so that's what it costs, 4,700 kilometers, $395. I figure a gas vehicle would be around $600 to $700, depending on the fuel efficiency of it. Decent savings, you're saving $200-300. Typically, you're going to need to stop to go to the washroom. You're going to stop to eat anyways. On our way back, we actually timed everything so much better because we figured out a system, figured out we should order food ahead of time, check out what food is there, check out where the washrooms are, blah, 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 and plan for that so we can get in, park, head on over to the washrooms, pick up the food, whatever. If there's no food that we wanted directly around the supercharger, we would actually order from a restaurant or whatever, drive by, pick it up, then pop over to the supercharger, which adds about 5-10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depending on how far away the food is that we wanted. And then we can park, charge, and eat it there. Walk to the washroom. There's always a washroom at the superchargers, at least every single one we went to. So that was my experience with charging and the journey, and I would highly recommend it, and I would actually do it again and again. We may do it again this summer, do some sort of a long distance trip with the kids to see how much more strain that puts on the battery and the charging and the efficiency and all of that. Yeah, but thank you again to Magback for making this entire trip possible and this video series possible. Check out all their products, but specifically the rim case, the phone case, as well as the charger, which is not here behind me. But check out Magback's links in the description down below to get your own products. If you're thinking of ordering a Tesla, go ahead and order it through the referral link and get whatever incentive they have going on now. They're always changing it, but check that out. Thanks for watching. If you have any additional questions about the trip or the journey, definitely let me know in the comments down below. My name's David with Teslas in Canada. Have an awesome day.